Earnings are less than 24 hours away. Here's everything that you need to know that's going on going into these earnings, especially this latest news regarding the gigacasting leak, the company update, which is unique. You don't usually get this on an earnings call, and earnings estimates, as well as historic volatility. Why don't we start with historic volatility? I have it up, I have it handy. Here's the thing. Vol is elevated. Volatility has been elevated since Liberation Day and the tariff announcement, so pretty much all of April. We have the highest volatility on the stock that we've had in the last 12 months. Now, the reason I bring that up is because it's really good if you want to sell options. Selling options is going to give you a bigger premium right now. So if you're bullish, you might be interested in selling puts. If you're bearish, you might be interested in selling calls, assuming you have some underlying positions. But if I look at the last historic 10-day volatility, 10-day volatility right now is the highest since COVID, the summer of 2020, which is crazy. If I go to 5-day volatility, we are elevated, but we start falling a little bit more into the range of where things have been. So I would expect after tomorrow, we'll get some big movements again. But on that 10-day historic, you've got some high volatility. So in other words, options pricing could be a little rich if that's what you're looking for. However, when we look at the implied one-day move, it's only 7.9%, and usually the stock moves 11.26% after earnings, so there could be a sign that there's been a little bit of a cooling down over just the last 24-ish hours. That said, tomorrow is earnings day after the bell. Right now we've got 33 buy targets on the street, 15 holds, 13 sells. The average price target for the stock is $313 right now. For adjusted EPS, we're looking at 44 cents tomorrow. That's the Wall Street estimate. And for adjusted GAAP, we're looking at 33 cents with revenue at $21.4 billion and a net of $1.56 billion. So those are some of the numbers going into this. Now, we already have, in my opinion, a lot of bad news data out of the way. That's mostly because why? Well, we already know how many deliveries we have. So that's not really a big secret here. We know that we are down 13% year over year on deliveries. We delivered 336,681 versus the 362,615 produced. So we expanded our production a little bit more than our deliveries. And as a result of this, Wells Fargo sees gross margin X credits down to 12.8% because they think that, hey, the refreshed Model Y might not be having the greatest demand and the Cybertruck demand might be fading, so some of the higher margin vehicles might be seeing some fade, while at the same time we've done some aggressive financing and lease options for the vehicles to sort of move inventory along. So I'm not entirely sure that we should expect tomorrow anything really exciting, given that we already have vehicle data in the way of margins. Now, what is exciting tomorrow is what the stock mover would be, in my opinion. And so here's the thing. I would argue that most people who are either holding or buying Tesla right now already understand that, yes, Elon being involved with a political position is going to cause some brand damage. And I think a lot of holders are going to see that as, yes, A, it exists, but it's going to be temporary, and B, it provides a buy-the-dip opportunity on the future value of the Tesla technology that because of the shenanigans, you're potentially able to get at a discount. Now, that's exciting for a lot of folks, and so a lot of people see that as an opportunity and think that this company update we get tomorrow is actually going to enhance some of the enthusiasm around just this. So what could this company update be tomorrow, and what am I even talking about? Why is this so unique? All right, so in order to understand why this is so unique is first, look at some of the earnings call updates. So these are the press releases for the earnings call. Here's Q1. Which is the current one, but look at these two first. Here's Q1 of 2024 and here's Q3 of 2024, just to give you a couple examples. What? Date of Tesla, quarterly financial results, and Q&A webcast. Same thing over here. Date of Tesla financial results and Q&A webcast. That has now been updated to say Tesla financial results and company update webcast. So rather than saying Q&A webcast, it says company update website. This is unique because usually Elon says that earnings days are not the days, like earnings calls are not the time for company announcements. Those should be reserved for separate days. Now, conveniently, right before this information has been coming out, like sort of this press release was updated, or sort of right as people started talking about this company update, we started getting leaked images, not really leaked. I mean, Tesla knows this, okay? This is strategic. Tesla knows people fly drones over the gigafactories and they provide updates. So they know this, and so what do? They typically put on a show, right? This is very normal, very, very reasonable. And so there are these images that have come out of a potentially new casting. So people are seeing what appears to be a set of racks. Y'all know I love reliable cell service because I rely on it as a YouTuber, much like I like reliable power tools. Now, something that's amazing about our sponsor today, Helium Mobile, is they enable the use of the T-Mobile bands at $0. That's right, they have a free cellular plan. If you check out their website in the link below, use my referral link so they know that I sent you. It supports the channel as well. But they'll get you a free plan that gets you 3 gigabytes of data, 100 minutes of calls, and 300 texts, all at no cost. And you literally get rewarded for using your phone. If you want the free version, you get to use it as your premium or primary cell service. That is, you can make phone calls from it, text it, use 5G internet, totally for free as your primary option. You can upgrade to a cheaper paid plan if you'd like, only $15 or $30 for upgraded plans. You could use that as your primary phone number, or if you're like me, you could consider using it as your secondary phone number. That's because a lot of phones now enable the use of an eSIM secondary number, and then you could switch between the two. So if for some reason, let's say you're an AT&T customer and you're looking for coverage because you just have a dead spot with AT&T, you could switch over to the other data network and boom, you're back in service. It's one of the neat things about this sponsor is you could have that backup for free, which is kind of cool. On top of that, they've got referral benefits, gift card benefits. You could refer other people and get $5 towards some of the other options that they provide you, all through that Helium link down below. But the way to get in is use that link down below and make sure you use that referral code Kevin, and that'll get you hooked up. Almost quite literally, except not with wires. It's all digital these days and really easy to get started with. So check them out in the link down below. That appear to be labeled RTTX, which could stand for Robotaxi Texas, or potentially even Robotaxi San Francisco. There are some suggesting that we might see that essentially being related to the Fremont factory, right? People are taking these images, they're uploading them into things like GPT, which I actually thought was very interesting. Here you see some visual clues about why it matters. This seems to be a smaller casting than the Model Y, which would point to some form of single motor platform using a structural battery pack. In other words, not the Model Y, not the Cybertruck, not the Model Y Juniper, but maybe the next generation vehicle. Obviously, a lot of people are really thinking that this is going to be Robotaxi, and it would make sense that there's going to be some form of enthusiasm in the form of a company update around Robotaxi tomorrow. Now, we already know that Robotaxis have been produced before because we saw them at the Robotaxi 1010 event. So we know Tesla has already manufactured them once before. So this doesn't necessarily mean much, in my opinion, in terms of the progression beyond, okay, let's get a little bit more progress on mass scaling the Robotaxis. But to me, that's a little bit more of a signal of, hey, look, see, we're working on it, than it is a signal of, hey, by the way, Robotaxis are actually here and working. Now, I'm not saying that to be a bear. I'm just saying that, look, here's some more of the RTTX photos. Just wanted to show that up on screen. I'm saying that more of a way to say, hey, if the company update tomorrow is about Robotaxi, I think what matters more than making the castings is actually giving us a real roadmap for what to expect when it comes to the release of Robotaxi. Not only the mass release of Robotaxi for users, but also how are we doing in Austin, Texas? How are we doing with actually getting on the road this summer, June or July, with Robotaxis? That's critical. Now, again, I think these images here are very cool. I love the, credit to the folks whose names I've got up from X. I think these are great conclusions about how potentially you could overlay these castings with where the battery management system could go, where inductive charging could go, whatever, right? I think these things are great. A lot of people have been commenting that they're not completely finished yet, that they still have some of the flared pieces and they still need to be trimmed down. That's fine. It wouldn't surprise me again that to sort of justify their effort of what they're going to announce tomorrow, they rolled these out into the lot on purpose. And they're like, hey, go do a drone flyby. We put something out there for you. Mostly because they've even got, I don't know if I can conveniently find an image of one right now, but they've got images of containers with no roof. So to me, it's just sort of like a, please look at us. And again, the vehicle has been manufactured before. We know it's been manufactured before, so we know the castings are likely present and the prototypes for the castings are likely present. Again, good to see more of them, right? But I think seeing more of them isn't necessarily a signal of anything that we necessarily need right now. What we need is confidence that we're actually going to have these as self-driving vehicles sooner rather than later. Okay, now that's my opinion, that out of the way. Let me quickly do a little bit of PEG analysis, and then I want to touch on some other updates here. So as far as PEG, for the rest of the year, we are expecting $2.64 of earnings. That would be for the 12 months ending December 31st, 2025. At a current price of $227 divided by 2.64, we're sitting at about 86 times earnings. So in other words, Tesla's valuation has compressed substantially from those higher $300 or $400 levels, which is great because we're still expecting Wall Street growth of around 32%. Which means Tesla's only selling for about a 2.68 PEG, which is actually really kind of good depending on how you value them. I usually value Tesla as a manufacturing company, which gives me about a 1.69 PEG, but Tesla by the market is being valued as a software company, which makes sense. And I'm totally willing to switch to that as we start seeing more revenues. And that's why I'm telling you there are two pegs you want to look at here. 2.69 is usually what you use for a designer of software, like NVIDIA, for example, which is selling for way lower than that right now. That's a huge discount right now. But one of the things we talk about is this idea that at 269, you're selling FSD, you're selling Optimus, and you're selling the software suites around that, you're selling the technology and the AI around that, could be a reasonable valuation, which means at 86 times divided by 32% growth expected on EPS over the next 4 years per Wall Street, it's actually reasonably valued as a software play. Now, if you only go as a manufacturing play, which I do think is somewhat of a disservice, given that you still also have other things to manufacture, the semi-truck, I don't think that's being priced in. The energy division, most people ignore that, and honestly, that's probably going to be one of the most profitable divisions, though a lot of it relies on batteries. If you only value it as a manufacturing company, 169 times the 32% growth times 2.64 for the end of the year, you'd only get to about $142 of stock value. So really it's the difference between 142 and the 227. That's what you're paying for Optimus and FSD and Robotaxi. Now, if things go bad tomorrow after earnings and the stock goes down to 142, just as an example, you are paying $0 for Optimus and Robotaxi, and obviously I would expect that dip would be heavily bought. I don't actually think it's gonna fall that much. I'm just saying that that's a reasonable way to potentially look at, okay, so, what is the market pricing in? Okay, good. So with that, now what we've got to think about is the charging infrastructure side. Yes, China is competing heavily with Tesla on the infrastructure side. I don't know how much of a direct issue this is, but unfortunately with these Trump tariffs, one thing that nobody's really talking about is we're not getting the latest and greatest technology from Chinese companies. Hold on one sec. Okay, we're not getting the latest technology from Chinese companies because of all these tariffs. CATL, for example, just unveiled a new battery that charges as fast as they say pumping gas. We've heard this talk from BYD as well, the 5-minute quick charge. A lot of people here in America say, oh, well, that just blows up your battery. The reality is, yes, it could lower the lifespan of batteries, but a lot of Chinese charging infrastructure in these quick charge batteries use an 800-volt infrastructure. And one of the reasons they've been able to pull that off is because China has basically two state-run companies that do all the charging infrastructure. And so you have this really coordinated build-out of EV chargers. China, for example, in the 5 years of 2019 to 2024, added 3 million public EV chargers. The US added about 120,000. So when we hear about these upgrades of charging infrastructure and we hear how many units China's adding, China's doing way better at expanding charging infrastructure, so it actually makes it easier to expand in China. Now, Teslas are also being sold in China, but they have a lot more competition there, whereas we have less here, and we're not really building out that EV infrastructure as well as we should be. Now, Biden had announced $635 million of additional grants for EV infrastructure on January 10th, right before the inauguration. That was in addition to money it previously allocated, but was really slow to get moving for a couple years, which was really dumb. Politics. But on February 7th, Trump paused all $3 billion of that EV spending on behalf of the government. So don't expect too much support for extra EV chargers in the United States. At the same time, the tariff war is driving Chinese cars to Europe because the European Union, might now actually lift tariffs on Chinese cars as long as they promise to have a floor on the prices that they import to Europe. This has already led China's market share to move up from 2.8% in Europe in 2024 to 4.1%. And so far, Tesla and BMW price cuts, if you lump them together, haven't really been helping. Sales of both of these, the Tesla and BMWs, are down 15% from their 2019 peak. The reason we're combining that is just to sort of get a feel for what's going on in the European economy. And it's quite recessionary. That's why the ECB is cutting so much. Now, another thing to look at from a tariff point of view is Tesla insurance could get hit slightly from tariffs, as well as obviously Tesla battery imports, and it depends where exactly we're going to be getting all of the parts. Tesla's been a little less transparent on some of their new battery mixtures in terms of where they're all coming from, so TBD. We're going to be looking for some of this in the earnings call, but I would argue the most important thing tomorrow is excitement over robotaxis. There are also rumors about potentially like Tesla doing some sort of share sale to make an XAI investment to get access to some of their data centers. I don't know if that's going to happen. That seems pretty far-fetched. I think much more likely is going to be some form of update on the robotaxis. And so if we get what we want, which are updates on full self-driving and robotaxis, that's going to be great for the stock. If we don't, it's going to be bad. In terms of like the actual revenue numbers right now, true investors in Tesla right now aren't worried about the current deliveries. They realize Tesla's going through a hard time right now, and as rates come down and we get through the whole Doge thing, who knows, maybe we'll get an update that Elon Musk is going to walk away from Doge and, by the end of the quarter, maybe we'll get an update about like some of the auto park features that were promised in Q4 but haven't shown up yet, especially like curb drop off to park, garage parking, driveway parking, blah, blah, blah. And so far, all this talk about more affordable models has really been just more affordable Model 3s and more affordable Cybertrucks, not new models. But we've already been talking about that. Not only in my course member live streams, but also just publicly on the channel. I've been saying for over a year now that the only thing that I think they're going to do with a more affordable model is cheaper existing cars. And we saw this debate between executives and Musk through what was reported by The Information. We kind of already knew this, that other executives at Tesla were pushing cheaper models and new models like a Model 2, but Elon killed that because he wants robotaxis. And this is why so much more is reliant on this company update we get tomorrow. We need to know what's happening. Like, are we gonna have robotaxis this year or not? That is make or break. If we get like a big delay on robotaxis or some form of bad news on robotaxis, it's gonna be really bad for the stock tomorrow. And if we get really good updates, the stock could rally. And I know obviously Optimus is going to be interesting as well, but I think less important right now than robotaxis. Yes, there will be hope on Optimus, but that's still years away. The critical time frame for Tesla is now. Anyway, thanks for watching. Consider subscribing. We'll see you in the next one. Goodbye and good luck.
Why not advertise these things that you told us here? I feel like nobody else knows about this.
We'll try a little advertising and see how it goes.
Congratulations, man. You have done so much. People love you. People look up to you.
Kevin Paffrath there, financial analyst and YouTuber. Meet Kevin. Always great to get your take.